right after that, you know, it was terrible for me, but right after that, to do something, I got involved in the College of Charleston Havana program. And yet every time I would come out of Cuba, like for instance, after that, I actually worked for the college in order to establish more programs down there. And over a period of about 2 years, I was in Cuba, the year 2000, 2001, 2002. But I would come out of Cuba, I'd go back to Vietnam. And the more I went to Vietnam, the more I fell in love with the country. And beginning in 2002, I decided to live there. Now, what I want to talk about just a minute is if you go to a country like Vietnam or Cuba, and you look around, you go to museums, you look at buildings, you meet some people that speak English well, and you think you've seen the country. I don't do it that way. What I did was, when I was 43 years old and I had my company to a fairly good size, growing rapidly, I decided that for some reason I had a drive to speak another language. I'd studied the Russian language in 8 courses at the University of North Carolina, and I was the best Russian student there, but I didn't speak the language. But when I was 43, I didn't mess around anymore. I said, I want to learn Spanish, because what can you do with Russian? And I called my office and talked to a person that was great at research. I said, I want to go to Spain this fall. That was a few months later. And I want you to design for me the toughest Spanish course you've ever seen, with the best school you could find. I want to live with a family. And sure enough, she did all that for me. Well, I got over there, and I experienced something I've never had before. They had 6 different teachers every day, an hour or more for each teacher with me alone, who had no regard that I couldn't speak anything hardly, and just laid it on me and gave me about 8 to 9 hours of homework a night. I lived with a Spanish family, couldn't speak a single word of English. I mean, I didn't speak any English there. There were some good-looking European girls there. I knew they wanted to speak English to me to practice their English. I wouldn't talk to anybody. Just wouldn't even read Time magazine. Wouldn't read, talk, nothing. So first off, if you do a foreign language, I think you should do it whole hog. Just go for it. That gave me some confidence that, you know, I didn't speak any English there. I spoke only Spanish. Now today, my Spanish is a little rusty because I put my Vietnamese on top of it. In the year 2002, when I made the decision to live in Vietnam, I decided to learn to speak Vietnamese, which is something of a challenge, as you would be aware. I set about to learn that language, and I'd like to describe to you how I went about it. First off, I learned it like a child. I wasn't afraid of mistakes. I made mistakes all the time. My principle is one-on-one. One teacher, one student. And then I try to cut English out of my life as much as possible. Little by little, I became fluent enough in Vietnamese that I can sit down with someone and talk 3 or 4 hours, not have a dictionary, because actually there's a lot of ways to say the same thing. And I learned to do that, and because of that, I began to enter the culture of Vietnam. And Kelly's mother and her sisters ultimately asked me to become what they call the An Hai of the family, which means the eldest son, which is a highly honored position. And I ultimately accepted that. And at the point I accepted that, I decided to move to Vietnam. And I'll tell you, it has been the most remarkable adventure of my life, even more remarkable than the Baby Superstore story. So I think enthusiasm can grow in a person, but you've got to be somewhat of a risk taker. And you've got to be able to get knocked down and get back up again. So yes, I'm probably committed 100, maybe, well, at least 1 million errors in Vietnamese, but today I can speak it. And today I love the country, but I also have a bond with College of Charleston, and I'm so happy I had a chance to come see y'all here today.